G'day ladies and gentlemen, Duckville here. Welcome to a PvP that is meant to be an absolute cracker. This is a PvP on Whirlwind between two very high level NA players. One of them down the bottom right hand side. We've seen quite a few of his games recently. I have featured him as the stream of the month for the Protoss race over on my Facebook page. If you want to know what I'm talking about, jump on to facebook.com/duckville.casting and you can see exactly what I'm talking about when I say stream of the month. Basically, a person who does a really good stream, has really good content, as in it's high level, it's got in-game commentary, it's reasonably good quality visually and that kind of thing as well, and also is just sort of maybe an unknown kind of player. But our young player down on the bottom right hand side, he is from Canada. He will be playing here as, well, a bit of an underdog in a way. We'll see how he goes. It is Clarity Gaming's Bones. As we mentioned, he has been featured quite a bit lately, obviously mainly as a stream of the week, but also he has very consistent replays that come out. If you jump onto teamliquid.net, you can find quite a lot of Bones' replays there, and if you're into, if you personally have a very macro-orientated style, a very passive kind of style, no matter the matchup, whether it be PvP, PvT, or PvZ, you'll want to have a look at this guy's replays. He does some really good stuff. Make sure you jump on his stream because he does self-analysis while playing, and then sometimes, you know, post-game analysis while watching a replay as well. So I would really suggest this guy if you want to learn a bit about a little bit more of a passive style. And not to say that he isn't one to just sit back and do absolutely nothing the entire game. He certainly does throw out some harassment every now and then, but it is a little bit more focused on playing a little bit more of a slower paced, macro-orientated style. His opponent up to the top left-hand side of the map is a name you'll all know and love. He's been featured around and about, of course, in WCS NA Premier League. Did a wonderful job in there. And, you know, he streams quite a lot as well. He is from Root Gaming. It is Minigun. Now, Minigun, of course, is up in the Grandmasters, has been around for a very long time in the StarCraft 2 scene, does his own little bit of coaching as well, so you can hop onto his stream, you can send him an email or you know, some kind of Skype message or something like that, and he'll be able to help you out with some coaching as well. A lot of the players, a lot of these high-level players that I do feature on the channel do their own little bit of castings, sorry, not casting, coaching, so you can always have a, you know, send them a message, see if they'll be able to help you out. Of course, there is a little bit of remuneration involved, so you will be so that, you know, it's a benefit for them. It's, of course, I think coaching is a really wonderful thing. I really wish that Blizzard would help out the coaches a little bit more. Like, I know there's sort of issues of favoritism and all this kind of stuff, but perhaps you know, Blizzard could feature coaching kind of stuff on their website or even in game, just to promote some more of the StarCraft 2 coaches, especially in the foreign scene. Of course, I know in Korea it's hard, you know, it's not exactly easy to say, hey Flash, if I give you $15, will you coach me? Because that's not really going to happen. But in the foreign scene, the players need to make some money, and I think a really good way to do that is for Blizzard to help them out with, you know, pushing coaching a little bit more. There are a lot of people, myself included, who could definitely benefit from coaching from some of these guys, and I have certainly wanted to for a long time, but I just don't really get the free time. But anyway, yeah, so we've got Minigun up at the top left-hand side. He has expanded relatively quickly. Meanwhile, for Bones, going out for a Stargate play very quickly here. He likes to open up with this, I like to call it a bit of a 1-1-1, because he goes for a Zealot, a Sentry, and a Stalker, and then into the Mothership Core, and then straight across into the Stargate. Now, we'll probably see him throw down the Robo as well. Likes to get out that Robo to make sure that he has adequate defense for preparing for any kinds of busts or anything like that. It also helps out with getting an Observer, the spotting DTs or anything of that kind. So we'll probably see that come up relatively soon. He has slightly adapted the build just based on the fact that he did journey across the map and did find out that Minigun was going for a little bit of a quicker expansion here. So he has slightly adapted what he was doing. Minigun, meanwhile, back onto 3 on each of the gases, double gateway coming up, and also Robo Facility. So everything is pretty stock standard for the moment, nothing too fancy coming out of either of these players. Of course, it is Whirlwind, which does promote quite a lot of very macro-based play. So in that particular light, you may say, well, maybe that'll help out with Bones. But, you know, Minigun himself is also a very, very high-quality player. So he's certainly going to have a little bit of his own aggression coming out, no doubt. A hallucinated Oracle coming across from Bones just to try scout out what's going on and also put the fear into Minigun. You know, the possible threat of an Oracle coming about, shooting down all the probes. But not going to happen. Just a hallucination. Immortal going to come out for Minigun here. So what we're going to be looking for in this particular game is how the players want to transition into mid-game. Now, mid-game of PvP generally will consist of lots of Void Rays. You do get to Archons come out quite a bit as well. You know, the old days of mass Colossus versus Colossus is a very, very it's not rare, but it's uncommon to see that these days, especially at the higher level. You rarely get to see players going for big Colossus versus Colossus, War of the Worlds kind of stuff, like you used to see in Wings of Liberty, where it would just be basically a single battle of 20 Colossi versus 20 Colossi, and, you know, whoever has a slightly better positioning, if you have one extra Colossus or something like that, then, you know, game's over. So those kinds of things, those days are gone, and personally I'm quite happy with that. We can see the Bones putting on a little bit of aggression here, just poking away at his opponent's natural expansion, taking out 2 sentries along with a couple of workers. So he's done a reasonable job so far, just continuing to be threatening at the moment. That is all the Bones is up to, and behind all of this, he's been able to get his an Immortal started up. We've got Void Rays starting to make their way out onto the field as well, and pretty much these guys are sort of sitting tit for tat right now, just basically exactly the same kind of situation coming out. Of course, Minigun does not have that faster Stargate, so he will not have access to those Void Rays as quickly as Bones has had, but, you know, Minigun does have the option of putting on some earlier aggression. Now, why do we say this? Well, because he hasn't invested as much into the Stargate sec. That gives him the ability to get up a few more gateways, possibly look towards these Templar here that we can see, and that gives him options to move forward with something like an Archon-based composition. We may see him stick with that Immortal-based style as well, but one thing we are certainly sure on is that this game will probably still continue at least for another 10 minutes or so, at a minimum, because of just how these guys are situated. Just very passive, being very, very calm with how they are approaching the game. So Minigun has now got a few more gateways up and running. Forges coming out as well. Lots of upgrades coming through, and I'm sure the Bones has seen that. He can see the double forges there. He'll recognize, alright, so Minigun does certainly want to play a little bit of a longer game, and now that he's going to see this expansion here as well, he's definitely going to be thinking, alright, I've got lots of time to get my own tech out, to make the right decisions, get my own economy into shape, and then we can start working towards a much later game, a much more sort of 20-minute plus kind of situation is what we are possibly looking at, because both of these guys are just heading out for the macro style. And in fact, Bones is, oh, okay. I thought he was going to take the. I thought he was going to double expand. I was like, that's something crazy that I would do. Is just you see your opponent go for a third base there, and I just say screw it, go for another 2 bases to try and play a little bit risky. But Bones is not going to be as silly as I am. Coming across to these 2 Phoenix, a feedback on one of them to take down most of the energy on one, but he has just enough energy to take down the Templar that was left over. But the 2 Phoenix have, well, one of them has escaped, but the other one did go down. But the big thing here is that Minigun is really, really powering hard into these upgrades. He's currently got the 1-2 upgrades coming out, of course, 2 for weapons and 1 for armor. Extra gateways coming up, and he's going to have access to quite a lot of powerful units here, moving into a composition mainly based off, I would assume it's going to be, it looks like it's going to be a Zealot Archon-based mixture here. We did have that Templar Archives finishing off. No Storm research, but Charge was finished up, and that means that Minigun is going to have a very powerful army. For those of you who were around for roundabout for Wings of Liberty, during sort of the early to mid stages of Wings of Liberty, when people were thinking, how do I deal with Mass Colossus if I don't have an even or greater count than my opponent? A lot of people would say, let's go into Chargelot Archons. And now the funny thing about this kind of style is that this actually does quite well in against very heavy air-based compositions as well, that mostly have things like Phoenix. But for the time being, Bones has not really continued down the path of the Phoenix. We're just continuing to get out a few more Void Rays. We can see the Twilight Council, Robo Bay is finished up, and the Colossi are starting to come out. So upgrades galore coming out here from Bones. He's recognized it, his opponent is sticking with a very passive kind of style for the moment. Extra gateways coming up from both players. We can see the Bones is just going to set up a little bit of a wall here just to make sure that this position is nicely protected against possible run by attacks. I do like that. I really think that sometimes a lot of people sort of underestimate the value of one or even more cannons at a particular base, because sometimes people will just leave it and they'll just have either none or maybe just one, and they'll say, alright, that's all cool, I've got enough defense here. Sometimes I really think that it's worth investing, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, very rarely 3, but I really think it's not worth neglecting, but it's weird sometimes you do see that. But anyway, we'll get back to what we are looking at here on the field for Bones. All of the tech is now available for our young Protoss player down the bottom right-hand side, an extra Stargate coming up. I would presume that Bones is going to start looking towards a Tempest play here, because this is something which I have seen quite a lot on his stream, sort of maneuvering into the around about the 20-minute mark, and you say, alright, it's time to get some of these Tempests out. Now we say, why are Tempests so good? Well, Tempests do that bonus damage to massive air units, and of course the Colossus counters that. They also do really well against some of the other air targets, and they can do generally well against most ground units. One thing they do have a problem with is very heavily upgraded Stalkers, and that is one thing which Minigun is certainly going to have very soon. We've been continuing on this double forge upgrade path here. He's currently moving up to +3 to weapons, +2 to armor is just finishing up now as well, but a Fleet Bacon is in operation for our Blue Protoss Minigun here, and he is the one who has started up the Tempest. He's already got 2 just popping out now. They don't have any upgrades. He probably will. I don't know why. I suppose they're just sort of comfortably setting up their 4th bases and these kinds of things, so there's no real room to get out air upgrades just as of yet, but I think that is a very powerful part of mid to late game PvP, is making sure you get those upgrades out. Of course, a double Cybernetics core can really help with that. You can chrono boost it as quickly as you can so that you can get those upgrades out, but Minigun has started +1 to air weapons. Now Minigun is moving into the middle, trying to control some of the region here, just so we can get a little bit of vision of what's going on. Has a couple of randomly spaced units over here. We do have a Warp Prism that is looking to perhaps get some threatening moves going on. Of course, the backside of Bones' base is relatively exposed. There's a couple of cannons here to defend, and it looks like he's throwing up a 3rd one as well. But there is a little bit of space to come in and get some harassment done. Not to mention the 4th base, which is just going up now. It will have a few cannons in a moment though. So we'll see how much this Warp Prism can do here for Minigun as he looks to move in. He may try and pressure at the front. What I think we might see here from the Root Gaming player is a possible, just a little bit of a poke at the front door to try and pull back some of the units of Bones, and there go those Zealots inside the main base, just taking apart a single cannon. 2 of the Tempests coming along to try and take down this Warp Prism. It looks like they are going to get a couple of shots, but will it be in time? It looks like the answer is no. Zealots doing quite a lot of work here for Minigun. It looks like they will be wiped out, and Minigun has been forced back for the time being. A couple of cannons, some storms, and a force field also blocking the way so those Zealots could not escape. But that is basically the end of that for the moment, but it looks like Minigun is not done. Another drop inside the main. Gets a couple of kills, not too many, 7 in total for Bones, but only 2 for Minigun at this stage. So it's sort of, it has been a very interesting game so far. Where did those 7 worker kills come from? Did I completely miss some crazy drop or something? I don't know. We'll have a look back through that. But anyway, Minigun trying to get this a little bit more work done inside the main. Unfortunately, not able to get too much. He's positioned a lot of Zealots just outside the 4th base of Bones. Stalkers and Archons trying to push in here to draw the units out, and Bones is a little bit out of position. The Zealots will come through, but these cannons are very well protected at the back side of the base. The Zealots going to try and target down that Nexus there, but not enough damage coming out of them. Too many cannons, and a few Zealots of Bones will come in here and protect this base. Meanwhile, back on the opposite side, Minigun continuing to threaten on the 6 o'clock base, and as he does that, his Zealots will get taken out by Bones over at the 4th, but more Zealots still continuing to warp in. Minigun doing a wonderful job of just trying to tear his opponent's units apart, just making sure that they're in all sorts of separate places at once. What I would love to see from Bones is just a single Tempest or something over on this side. Maybe he could spare it for a moment to try and shoot down that War Prism, but the Prism is doing wonderful work here. It's got full health, full shields, and is just continually sending in Zealots to harass Bones right now. And the APM, let's have a look at the APM count right now. It is just going pretty high for both of these players, up to 300 for Bones as he attempts to bring some units back to try and deal with these various threats that are hurting him across the map. Meanwhile, Minigun is able to take his fifth, and he's able to get that all secure and ready to go. Zealots coming in, getting some really good work done inside the main base. The probe count has been destroyed here by Minigun. Looks like that Nexus will also be looking to go down as well. I think, yeah, that's done. Done and dusted. It's the main Nexus of Bones right now. The Dark Shrine on the way, revealed here perhaps. Will Minigun be able to deal with that? He should be able to. He's got cannons at most of his bases, but I mean, this has just been very, very interestingly sort of cautiously using his units to defend here as Bones. I'm a little bit surprised at how very sort of lackadaisical he's been about defending the base, but I mean, you know, when you've got attacks everywhere, you do have to make very calculated decisions, and I think Bones has said, you know what, I don't really need that Nexus as much as, you know, I'm going to need to defend this particular base over here. If this base goes down, then you can be in a lot of trouble. Same can be said for this one as well. The Nexus did get taken down there. The worker count of Bones is now reduced down to 55, so he doesn't exactly have the economy back where it was before. As we can see, the 4th base is going to need to get up and running as quickly as he can, because otherwise he's going to start to fall really far behind. And we can already see signs of that in the bank department here. Around about 200 minerals here for Bones. Meanwhile, his gas is starting to climb up, but for Minigun, he has got a ridiculous army right now, adding in a lot of Tempest here, and as we can see, he is really starting to put that into shape. A huge Tempest army is starting to come together on the field. You can see the range of these guys. It's just incredible how far the Tempest can shoot, but when you add in a lot of Tempests like this, the Archons on the ground, they can be food for things like Storms. So this is one thing which I do see Bones do quite a lot, is start to add in not only his own Tempest, but also get some Templar up and running so that he can throw down some Storms, because sometimes, as you can see, the Tempest can be very clumpy. They like to clump together like a lot of the air units do, as I'm sure a lot of the Zerg players will know from using Mutalisks. You say, why do my Mutalisks always stack together? That is absolutely perfect to be stormed on. So this is something that Minigun will need to be very careful of, and Bones, of course, is going to need to be very cautious with some of his own units here. We can see lots of Zealots on the ground. Their upgrades not as handsome as you would like to see, but he is certainly making use of these, and it looks like he's going to send them off. Yeah, I was going to say, he may need to just send these off to die, because I don't think there is any point keeping these alive. The Tempest will shred them to pieces, and of course the Archons down on the ground can easily deal with those Zealots as well. So Bones is going to try and buy himself a little bit of time. He should know that his opponent does have a lot of bases up and running. We can see that there are almost 6 bases right now for Minigun. This game has been going for almost 25 minutes, and we've got a lot of these Protoss units out. Lots of Templar, lots of Archons, and Tempest also out as well. We can see there is a huge total, actual, like in total, Tempest on the field. 6 and 18 for Minigun, so it's quite a lot, but as you can see, Minigun is going to have his own little bit of Zealot harassment coming across at his own base. So 5th will go down, and lots of these probes will be taken apart, pulling down Minigun's worker count down to 63. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. Good usage of all of those, all of the units that he didn't need. And here comes the battle. Storms all over the place. I believe the majority of those storms are from Minigun. He did have a lot of Templar, but the Templar at the back of Bones' side do come through, throw down their own storms as well. And now we can see the Tempest count of Minigun is getting a lot of work done, trying to target down the Tempest of Bones. And the Colossi on the ground, they're wonderful to have to deal with the with any of the ground units. And as you can see, the Tempest of Minigun are forced to retreat though, because they have done their work. They've taken out a lot of his opponents, his opponent's units here, and that means that he is forced to retreat right now, because Bones is doing a lot of good harassment across the map. We can see some of these probes attempting to run away. Down to 56 probes is Minigun, and he is going to suffer a little bit here inside the natural base. One of the gateways will go down. We may see a couple of other buildings go down shortly too. I would have loved to have seen Bones target down the Templar Archives and possibly even a Twilight Council, but not to worry. What he has done here is that he has bought himself time to get a good army back together. We can see that he did lose a lot of his own Tempest. He's currently building up another 2 Tempests, plus 1 to air armor is on the way. Ground armor level 3 is also being built up, and the Templar count, we got so many temps going on here, it's lucky it's not like a Windows crash file or something, because there'd be temp files everywhere. But Minigun is going to make a little bit of a change now. He said, alright, you've killed off quite a lot of my Tempest. What I'm going to do is start adding in some Void Rays. Now, you look at the Void Rays and you say, are they actually as good as the Tempest? Well, Void Rays, very similar to the Tempest, will stack up quite a lot, as these probes are doing as they transfer across the map. But the Tempest, the Tempests are very slow with their DPS. If you can get Void Rays in range of things like Colossi, like even Stalkers, and even your opponent's Tempest, they can clean them up quick smart, just as Bones is doing right here, cleaning up his 5th base down to the bottom left-hand side of the map. Bones is doing some really good stuff, targeting down the Nexus with the DTs. The probes are going to be in a lot of trouble here. They are forced to retreat. The War Prism is going to get out of there. Bones looking to try and get a few more kills while he's there. There is absolutely no detection here for Minigun. That is going to hurt him, but there he is. He's finally going to scout them out. And down they go. So those DTs have done a really good job here for Bones. It has bought him a lot more time, and I think that is just perfect for his situation right here. Adding in more Archons, getting a few more Tempests out, some Colossi as well, and he's just going to look for a really, really level sort of composition here. We're not going too hardcore into ground units such as the Stalkers and the Archons, but there are definitely a lot of power units such as the Archons, the Colossi, and then a few of these Tempests up in the sky, all backed up by the Templar and of course that one Mothership Core. So Bones is really looking for just a nice sort of a very well-balanced mixture of units right here. For Minigun, he's still got a lot of Tempest out. We're looking for a very highly powered air army here with lots of Void Rays out, Tempest, and as we can see down on the ground, Archons along with Templar, and quite a lot of Zealots. I'm not sure about the mass Zealot composition here from Minigun. I think that may be a little bit of a bad decision here. I would presume we're probably going to see him just sort of throw some of those Zealots away, because these Zealots are they're going to do nothing. There's Storm, there's a lot of Archons, and there's also 3 Colossi. Like, you know, Colossi aren't great against air units, like they can't bump their head into them, which would be quite a funny thing to see, but you know, they're still going to tear apart all these Zealots on the ground. So very, very cautious about the position that Minigun is in right now. And we'll have to see how he's going to maneuver himself here, because I do think he could be in a little bit of trouble. But as we can see, Storms are going to go down for both players. He's trying to take an advantageous position here. We can see Minigun just positioning himself off to the side at the top there. But now here comes Bones. Throwing down the Storm is Minigun. Lots of Storms all over the place, and there are just Storms absolutely covering the battlefield right now, tearing apart a lot of the Void Rays. And Archons on the ground are doing an immense amount of work there on those stacked up Void Rays. The Tempest count of Bones has been reduced to 3. The Colossi have done their work on the ground. Blink Stalkers now moving forward to take care of the Tempest left in the sky for Minigun. And keep in mind, this is all that Minigun has here in the rest of this battle. He's going to try and resupply with some more Zealots as well. The Tempest still under attack as these Blink Stalkers chase after them like a predator after their prey. And Bones, I think, has gotten a really good win out of that little battle there. So he's going to really take an advantage right now. Let's look at the economy for both of these players. We've got Bones sitting on, well, he's got his 3rd base is still in operation, but he's about to mine out. His 4th up towards the, the 5th up towards the top, or the middle right-hand side is looking pretty good. We'll probably see him move to expand up towards the top right-hand side as well, as he looks to continue to harass on the 5th base of Minigun right now. But the economy of Minigun starting to slowly dwindle a little bit as well, but he's still looking good on his 4th. His 3rd is basically mined out. His main and natural, both of course, have been done for quite a while. So this game is really starting to turn in the favor of Bones, I believe. Just looking at some of the some of the upgrades, of course, as well. We've got the ground units of Bones sitting on 313. He's slowly caught up on some of those upgrades right now. We can see his air forces are currently sitting on, where are they? There's a Tempest 213. Very nice air upgrades here. That means, keep in mind, that the Tempests do 39 damage to ground targets. They do 95 damage to massive air units, such as carriers and other Tempests up in the air, and of course, counting in the Colossi as well. So they do a lot of damage. When it comes down to it, they're very slow, but they are very, very hard hitting. Meanwhile, the composition of Minigun, again, we've got a lot of Zealots here, which are basically just cannon fodder at this point. They're really not going to get too much done. They'll occupy the time of some of the Archons and some of the other Zealots of Bones, but I mean, it's all going to be resting on things like these Void Rays here. His Void Rays do have 133. He's favored the shields a little bit more, and that has helped him out. His ground units have also got that bonus as well. It also, keep in mind, you know, not many people actually remember this when it comes down to it, but Protoss buildings also get that shield upgrade. You can see there, a little bit of armor on those buildings goes a long way. Helps out with your Zealot that's trying to save a base here. Looks like Minigun will take out the Zealot before too much harm is done to that single pylon. But Minigun, as I said, I feel is a little bit of a struggling position right now, just because he's having a little bit of a hard time getting some units out. His bank has been reduced to basically nothing. Bones is looking to take a sixth base up towards the top right-hand side. Some Zealots and Minigun are going to scout this out. It looks as if his Bones going to be able to save this. I think he should be able to. Some DTs will warp in. Cannon will not be saved, but the DTs and the Zealots will keep that base alive for the moment. And this is going to be a very focal point of the game. As both players look to try and remax as quickly as they can, we can see that Minigun is now back up to 184 supply. We've got a large counter Tempest out for him again. 7 Tempests, 9 Void Rays, along with the 7 Templar on the ground, along with a lot of Zealots that are now, I really think this is a better decision for these Zealots here. You can't really keep them in a mass Protoss composition later on in the game. They will just do nothing. All that the Zealots are good for at this point is throwing them into bases, trying to harass as much as you can, and Minigun is going to do exactly that. Heads across to the top right-hand side base of Bones. Bones is going to throw down a myriad of cannons here, just trying to make sure that he has at least some static defense. The probe, did that? Oh, there it is. I was going to say the probe is still having a little bit of trouble getting through that battle, but he does eventually get across. A single DT is here to try and save this Nexus. It looks as if it may be able to save it, I think. Yeah, one more DT comes in, but those Zealots are not going to get too much more done. And now Bones, I think he's got a similar sort of issue here, where he has a lot of his own Zealots, but there's no, like, apart from Storm, there's basically one Archon and no Colossi for Minigun, so these Zealots aren't as much of a burden on his army. You can certainly throw them into the meat grinder again, as he has done before, by sending them towards this 7th base down the bottom left-hand side, or is that the, sorry, that's the 6th for Minigun, and his 5th is just across here. You can send those Zealots in here again, and I think that may be a good decision, because then Bones can start to add in some more of the power units that we've mentioned before, the Archons, the Tempests, and the Void Rays, these kinds of things that do help you win a game at this post-35-minute mark in a PvP. So, just taking stock of what has been going on through this game. We've seen some early aggression not really happening from either player. They've just sort of sat back for the time being, picking up their naturals, their third bases, and even moving forward to try and take a 5th and a 6th throughout this entire game. There's been 1 or 2 major battles. We've seen quite a lot of Storm being used by both players, but so far, Bones and his very passive sort of come-at-me kind of style has been keeping him alive for quite a while, and his very balanced sort of mixture is also helping him out as well, with the Colossi dealing a lot of damage on the ground, the Archons tanking up the front and also dealing their own massive damage here. As you can see, 47 damage to bio units and then the 34 damage against other standard targets. His Storms have also been wonderful, just spreading them out across the battlefield, doing really, really nicely there. And for Minigun, he's been sticking with a much more harassment-orientated kind of style here, sending Zealots around the map, sending in drops and all these kinds of things. Earlier on, we did see Minigun doing an immense amount of dropping, which was just pulling Bones left, right, and center. But now we may have another big battle in the middle here. Both players trying to move into position to try and find the right spot to lay down their armies. One thing you have to be very careful of is this choke point in the middle. and Minigun was trying to abuse that right now, but Minigun is also added in the mothership, so he is going to have the added benefit of cloak on a lot of his units. Now, of course, Bones should have an observer in this mixture here. I'm pretty sure that he does. Yeah, he's got 2. So he does have 2 observers to scout out what's going on, but as you can see, Minigun has been able to throw down a Revelation on top of all of these units here. Minigun is trying to lure his opponent into a dangerous position right now, but Bones is not having any of it. He's going to sit back for now. He's going to wait for Revelation to go away. Not that it really matters at this point. You can basically always tell where your opponent is. But the 2 armies will move forward, trying to get some storms in good positions here. The Stalker's blinking forward, trying to soak up some of the storm damage, I believe the point of that was. But Bones is having a little bit of trouble getting into range here. The issue with his army, of course, as we mentioned before, the Tempests are wonderfully powerful units, but you have to get into, you have to be in a good position, and you can't really engage when your opponent is firing down on you with 9 Tempests from very, very long distance here. And as you can see, Minigun is taking advantage of that. Wonderful storms from Bones on top of almost all of the Void Rays. The mothership has been reduced to ashes. Only the Tempest and the Void Rays remain. Storms all over the place from Bones. The Void Rays of Minigun are down to basically nothing. Just a few Tempests at the back for Bones. And he has, well, he's won part of this battle by getting rid of a lot of the Void Rays and those kinds of things. But I mean, he still has to deal with an incredible amount of the air firepower here for Minigun, and Minigun is forced to back off for the moment as Bones is looking to try and regenerate some of his army. A lot of these mobile Blink Stalkers, 333 on their upgrades, as we said before. 333 on these Stalkers is very, very strong. You don't want to underestimate how good Stalkers can be against forces of Tempest. Now, the Tempests do a lot of damage to ground targets as well. But, I mean, if you can get your Stalkers into a good position, they can certainly burn up all of those Tempests. But, as we can see, Minigun now approaching the 5th base or the 6th base. Whatever base it is, I don't really care. This game has been absolutely incredible. There is a blink from Bones, trying to move into a good spot here. The Zealots, this is the time when the Zealots actually come into fruition here, when they can keep your Tempest covered by blocking out the Zealots. This is what they are very, very good for. Blocking out the Stalkers, I should say. That's what the Zealots are really, really good for. But as you can see, I was going to say, what is that Zealot doing? He's just going to camp out at that base. But Minigun looking to take another base here. If he can get this base set up, he may be able to just maneuver himself back into a very good position right here. The upgrades for both players. We've got 333 in the air for Minigun. His ground units have 333 as well. But hold on a second. We got another big battle here. Tempest out to the side for Bones. Stalkers blinking forward, trying to take down the rest of the air army. The Zealots are left to fend for themselves on the ground. Zealots and Stalkers all just pushing forward, trying to chase after the Tempest. I'm not sure if that's the greatest idea. But here come the Tempest of Bones, just moving forwards. There's only a few of them, only 7 compared to the large count of, what is that? That's like 15 or 13 or something like that of miniguns. So Bones is... he's doing really well to be sticking in this. I think that he does, again, have a very balanced sort of composition, but Minigun has just been maneuvering himself very, very well. His bank is going to start to dry out a little bit, though. As we can see, his bases are now starting to run a little bit low on the minerals here. He does have the bottom left-hand side, which is flourishing at the moment, picking up this 7th base down towards the sort of the inner middle left side of the map, which is going to start mining for him very soon. If he can add in the gas from this particular base, then he'll be able to pretty much say that he is a very, very good position right now. But Bones, as we said, has been just holding his own very, very well, just positioning himself nicely, getting his Zealots in good places to help out, his Stalkers blinking about, trying to take advantage of their mobility against the very slow pace of those Tempests up in the air. So I think that, you know, Bones needs to get these Zealots into the mix somehow, maybe throw them out onto some of the random bases, but we're going to have another big battle. Storms all over the place yet again. It's basically Zealot against Zealot. Tempest at the back for Bones. They're doing a really good job trying to target down some of the Tempest of Minigun. Minigun is going to target down, focus firing on his opponent's Tempest as well, but Bones has taken the battle on the ground. That means his Stalkers have free reign over these Tempests if they can get into range and blink on top of them. Looks like the Void Rays are going to stop them for the moment, though. Bones, I think these Zealots need to go and harass some of the bases. If he can take out this base here and possibly just even this base, he doesn't even need to kill off the big base down on the bottom left, but if he can get those out of commission, expand himself, he'll be able to put himself in the hot seat for this game, because Bones has these excellent upgrades. Both players are now sitting on 3-3-3-3-3. There's lots of threes all over the place. but both of them are sitting very comfortably with upgrades, so that's not really an issue at this point. The issue right now is how well can you macro, how well can you keep your bank alive, and harass your opponent at the same time, and that is the big thing which we can see that Bones is now going for, coming across in towards his opponent's natural base, getting some work done here, taking out cannons all over the place here, forcing Minigun to warp in some zealots to defend. Nicely done, because that soaks up some of the supply here. As you can see, that's 198 supply right now, consisting of quite a lot of zealots. We can see 25 zealots on the field from both players. And that, as we said before, zealots aren't as helpful at this stage of the game, depending on what the composition of your opponent is. So if we're in Minigun seat, we're sitting here, we're saying, alright, we got a lot of zealots. What are they going to be good for? Well, these guys are really good for zoning out these stalkers. If the stalkers try and blink underneath your Tempest, then you can use the zealots to cut them apart. For Bones at the moment, what are these zealots good for? Well, they're handy for sort of tanking up some of these zealots of his opponent. Maybe they'll tank some of the damage of the units up in the sky that Minigun has as well, but other than that, I'm not really sure if these guys are as handy to have. Of course, we'll see, because the battle could go the same way as it did before. I didn't think that was going to go Bones' way, but he was able to make it work. The Tempest count of both players currently sitting at, we've got 6 for Bones, we've got 8 for Minigun, or is that 9? Sorry, that's 8. That's 8, my bad. He's got 8 Tempest out right now, but Bones has been able to secure his own 7th base up towards the top right-hand side of the map, so this game has certainly gone the distance. We're up to the 48-minute mark as both of these players continue to try and figure out, how do I break this guy? For Bones, he's thinking, well, Minigun has just been getting this massive air army out every single time, and it's very hard to break through. For Minigun, he's thinking, how does this guy not die? He's constantly picking off my Tempest. How do I deal with this? He doesn't have a bigger Tempest army, but what he is getting, Bones is getting some wonderful storms off. He's getting great control on the ground with the zealots and then those stalkers as well, and is continually harassing his opponent. We can see these zealots now coming across the map. Minigun, a couple of his own zealots being a little bit lazy, but finally they get to work here on that zealot that is attacking here, but a few more will move into position right now. Looks like this base is going to be a very contentious position here in this late stage of the game, but before we go there, it looks like we are possibly moving in to another battle scenario where it'll be very dependent on the position of how this one goes, because as you can see, Bones he's in a good position because he has a large room for arc here, a lot of space where his Tempest can sit on a very high ground kind of position where other units such as Stalkers cannot attack into. But the main thing is that Minigun has just so much air. We've got 8 Tempests, we've got however many Void Rays that is, 11 Void Rays are out on the field, and that is a pretty nice mixture for him. We do have a few Templar on the ground, just the 2 Templar, and we'll see if that's going to add in as a big factor here in this game, because as we can see, 6 Templar out for Bones, and Storms could mean the end of a game right here, because if you get your Storms right, if your Void Rays are out of position, they're all clumped up, a couple of storms can ruin your day, and that certainly may be occurring right now as the players move into position to try and fight. Here we go. It looks like they are now moving through. There are those storms we were talking about. Both players just sort of moving into a good spot. The storms of Bones are just wonderful all over the Void Rays, and now we can see more Void Rays getting torn apart by the storms, and I think the Bones might have this. His Stalkers down on the ground doing a wonderful job. As we can see, the Zealots have just controlled the ground there for Bones, and that has actually done a really good job. I'm kind of a little bit surprised at how good those Zealots were at just controlling the units on the ground there. But Minigun, now down at 118 supply, is in quite a lot of trouble. His opponent is sitting up at 166. Bones now encroaching on this base at the 12 o'clock position. Will he be able to get inside and get some damage done? This could end the game right here, right now. Stalkers up there, just trying to get some damage on those Archons as best as they can. Zealots tanking at the front. As we can see, Bones is slowly moving in now. The Tempest firing down from long range, and I think, Minigun, the time is up for you, my friend. He has been fighting the good fight, no doubt about that. But Bones, his very passive style, some wonderful storms coming out from him. His composition has been keeping him afloat despite some very scary moments with lots of drops coming out for Minigun. But I would think that that is about it for the Root Gaming Protoss. GG's, what a wonderful display of PvP skill and battle intensity there throughout that entire game. was a little bit slow earlier on during the match, but it certainly heated up there later on. It was electric, you could say. And that is the pun of the day. That's all I'm going to go with today. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that match. Make sure you go and catch the guys on their streams, which were linked earlier. Say hello to them on Twitter, of course. You can also say hello to me on Twitter, Facebook, and of course here on YouTube, as well as jumping on to my Facebook page, which I mentioned before. Catch you later. +1 to weapons, armor, charge is just about to finish, all these lovely things all about to come out here from Bales, and Jon Snow is in a world of pain right now. Some lings are going to pop out, the sentry's in a little bit of trouble, jumps them up into the wolf prison, but drops them back